The Galactic Academy floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal flower. It was old, older than most civilizations remembered. For 12,000 years, it had been the place where species from across the stars came to learn about each other. The Academy decided who was dangerous and who was safe. It decided who could join galactic society and who needed to be watched carefully. When the first human ship appeared at the edge of known space, the Academy sent their best team to study them. The team spent 1 full year on Earth. They visited every continent. They watched humans eat, sleep, work, and play. They took samples of blood and hair and skin. They measured everything that could be measured. The leader of the evaluation team was a being named Oremeth. He belonged to a species called the Velthuri, creatures made entirely of living crystal. The Velthuri were famous for being fair and logical. They did not let feelings affect their judgment. Oremeth had studied over 300 species in his long life. He had never made a mistake. His report on humans was not very long. He wrote that humans had no natural weapons. Their teeth were small and flat. Their nails were soft and broke easily. They had no poison, no acid, no special abilities of any kind. Their skin was thin and tore without much effort. Their bones could be broken by forces that other species would barely notice. Oremeth noted that humans were slow. Most predator species could outrun them easily. Their reflexes were nothing special. Their senses were weak compared to many other beings. They could not see in the dark. They could not hear very quiet sounds. They could not smell danger coming. The strangest thing about humans, Oremeth wrote, was how quickly they died. Most intelligent species lived for hundreds of years. Some lived for thousands. Humans were lucky to reach 80 or 90 years. They barely had time to learn anything useful before their bodies stopped working. At the end of his report, Oremeth wrote his conclusion in clear, confident words. Humans were not a threat. They were fragile, emotional, and temporary. They might be useful as artists or workers, but they would never be warriors or leaders. The Academy could safely allow them full access to galactic society. The Academy accepted this report without asking many questions. Oremeth had never been wrong before. There was no reason to doubt him now. Invitations were sent to Earth. Humanity was welcome to send students to the stars. The governments of Earth argued for months about who to send. They wanted to impress the galaxy with their best scientists, their smartest leaders, their most talented people. But the Academy had rules. They wanted ordinary citizens, not exceptional ones. They wanted to see how normal humans would fit in with other species. That was how Park Doan was chosen. Doan was 26 years old and completely ordinary. He had served in the military for 4 years as a medic, someone who treated wounded soldiers. Now he worked in Seoul, riding in ambulances and helping people who were hurt or sick. He was not rich or famous. He was not unusually smart or strong or handsome. He was just a man who went to work every day and did his job without complaining. The selection committee chose him because he scored exactly average on every test they gave him. He was the perfect example of a normal human being. Do-hyun did not argue with their decision. He said goodbye to his mother, packed a small bag, and boarded the transport ship. The journey to the Academy took 3 weeks. He spent most of that time reading about the species he would meet. The Crothians worried him most. They were giant creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in black armor that grew from their own bodies. They had 4 arms, and each arm ended in a blade made of bone. Their empire had conquered 47 star systems through war and violence. They had only stopped because every other species threatened to unite against them. The Thessians seemed more friendly. They were tall and graceful, with blue skin and 4 arms that ended in gentle fingers. They were scientists and teachers, running most of the Academy's daily work. The Marillions were small and covered in soft fur. They were traders and merchants, always looking for ways to make profit. The Velthri, like Arimith, were rare and mysterious. Their bodies were made of crystal that glowed with inner light. They served as judges, trusted by everyone to be fair. There were hundreds of other species, but Dohyun focused on the ones he would meet most often. He memorized their customs and their rules. He learned what gestures were polite and what actions were insulting. He wanted to represent humanity well. When his ship finally arrived at the academy, Dohyun stepped out into a corridor filled with aliens. Some were bigger than him, some smaller. Some walked on legs, some floated, some crawled. The air smelled strange, recycled and filtered 1,000 times. The lights were too bright for his eyes. His advisor was waiting for him. Her name was Curator Bellix, a Theshan with smooth blue skin and forearms folded across her chest. She smiled at him in the way that Theshan smiled. "Welcome to the academy," she said. Her voice was musical, translated by a small device in his ear. "We are happy to have humanity's representative here." Dohyun bowed politely. "Thank you for having me. I hope to learn much." Bellix's smile grew wider. "You will find the academy comfortable. We have prepared special quarters for you, adjusted for human needs. Your temperature will be controlled. Your food will be prepared separately so you do not get sick. You will have access to medical help at all times because of your species' fragile nature." Dohyun noticed how she said fragile and special needs. She was being polite, but her meaning was clear. Humans were weak. Humans needed extra care. Humans were not like the other students. He nodded and said nothing. "Is there anything you need right now?" Bellix asked. Dohyun thought for a moment. "Is there a place to exercise? A gymnasium?" Bellix looked surprised. "There are training areas for different species. Most are not safe for humans. But there is a general fitness room that should work for you. That will be fine. I like to stay active." Bellix led him through the station, showing him classrooms and laboratories and places to eat. Dohyun watched and remembered everything. He noticed how other students looked at him as he walked past. Some were curious. Some seemed confused. A few looked at him with something like, "Pity. Poor human." Their faces seemed to say, "So small and weak and soft." Dohyun kept his face calm and friendly. He had learned long ago that people often underestimated him. He had also learned that this could sometimes be useful. His quarters were small but nice. The bed was comfortable. The temperature was perfect, and the window showed a beautiful view of the planet below. He put down his bag and looked out at the alien world. Somewhere down there, species had fought and died for thousands of years. Somewhere out there, empires had risen and fallen. And now, humanity was finally part of it. Dohyun took a deep breath and began to unpack. He had a lot to learn. And even though humans did not live very long, he planned to make every moment count. After all, being underestimated had its advantages. He would show them what humans could do. In time, they would all see. 6 months after the fire, Dohyun's hands had mostly healed. The scars remained, twisted lines of lighter skin across his palms and fingers. The doctors told him he was lucky. Another species would have needed mechanical replacements. But humans, they discovered, were surprisingly good at recovering from injuries that should have ended them. Dohyun went back to his classes and his volunteer work. He moved a little slower than before. Some of his strength in his hands was gone forever. But he did not complain about it. He simply changed how he did things and kept going. The academy had changed around him in ways he did not fully notice at first. Students who had ignored him before now nodded hello when he walked past. Teachers who had treated him like a child now spoke to him with something close to respect. The Marillion students had accepted him as one of their own, inviting him to their parties and celebrations. But not everyone was happy about the humans' growing reputation. Lord Varex had been watching. He was a Crothian, the third son of the Crothian Emperor himself. The Crothians were the most feared warriors in all the galaxy. Their empire had taken over 47 star systems through pure violence. They had only stopped because every other species threatened to fight them together. Varex had not come to the academy to learn. He had come to remind everyone how powerful his species was. He was 3 meters tall, covered in black armor that grew from his own body. He had 4 arms, and each one ended in a blade made of bone. Those blades could cut through metal like paper. He had killed 11 people in the fighting arena on the planet below. Every death was called an accident. Nobody believed that, but nobody could prove anything different. Varex hated humans. He could not explain why exactly. Maybe it was because they were weak and yet people were starting to talk about them. A species that should be nothing more than servants was being treated like equals. It was wrong. It was an insult to the natural order of things. The incident happened in the main hallway of the academy. It was the wide corridor where all species walked between their classes. Varex was leading a group of Crothian nobles through the station. By old tradition, everyone was supposed to bow when they passed. The Veshans bowed. The Marillions bowed. The Velthari bent their crystal bodies in respect. Everyone bowed. Everyone except Park Do-hyun. He was walking the other way, reading something on a small screen, not paying attention to anything around him. He did not see the Crothians until he had almost walked past them. When he finally looked up, Varex was standing right in front of him. All 4 of his arms were crossed over his armored chest. "You did not bow," Varex said. His voice was deep and cold. Do-hyun looked at him calmly. "I am sorry. I was not paying attention. That is not a good enough excuse. You have insulted my people. I did not mean to. I meant no disrespect." Varex leaned down closer. He was almost twice as tall as Do-hyun. His bone blades caught the light and gleamed. "What you meant does not matter. Your species is weak. You should know your place." Do-hyun did not step back. He did not look away. He just stood there, small and soft, completely calm. "I said I was sorry," he repeated. "That is all I can offer." The hallway had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching. Nobody had ever refused to bow to a Crothian lord before. Not in the entire history of the academy. Varex's eyes became narrow and cold. "Then I want satisfaction. I challenge you to single combat in the arena. Traditional rules. We fight until one of us surrenders or dies." The words echoed through the corridor. Someone gasped. This was something that had never happened before. The arena was meant for fights between equals, not for murder. Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded his head. "I accept." Everything exploded into chaos after that. Curator Bellix rushed to speak with both of them. The Academy's leaders called an emergency meeting. Messages flew back and forth between the station and governments across the galaxy. "You cannot do this," Bellix told Do-hyun in her office. Her 4 hands were shaking. "The arena is sacred, yes. But this is not a fair fight. Varex has killed 12 people in combat. You are classified as not dangerous. Sending you to fight him is just killing you with extra steps." "I accepted his challenge," Do-hyun said. "I cannot take it back now. We can find another way. You could apologize publicly. We could pay money to make this go away. You could leave the academy for a while. Anything is better than this." Do-hyun shook his head slowly. "If I apologize now, after accepting the challenge, humans will be seen as cowards forever. Every human who comes here after me will be treated like dirt. I will not do that to my people." Bellix stared at him for a long moment. She had lived for 400 years. But right now, she understood humans less than ever before. "You will die," she said simply. "Maybe, Do-hyun agreed. But I will not bow. Yoon So-mi found him that night on the observation deck. It was the same place she had found him after the fire. He was looking at the stars again, his face calm and thoughtful. "You are completely crazy," she said, sitting down next to him. "You know that, right? Many people have told me that today. Varex has killed 11 people in that arena. 12, if you count the one they covered up. His bone blades can cut through armor. His body can stop energy weapons. He has 4 arms, and each one is stronger than your whole body. I know all of this. Then, how do you think you can possibly win?" Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then a small smile appeared on his face. "His species came from a planet with perfect weather," he said. "The temperature there is always the same. Never hot, never cold. Their armor is very good at protecting them, but it is like a sealed box. Heat cannot escape from inside." So-mi frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means they overheat. If they have to keep fighting for a long time, their bodies start to shut down. They are made for quick, violent attacks, not for long fights. And what about humans?" Do-hyun held up his scarred hands. "Humans came from a planet with every kind of weather. Very hot, very cold, and everything in between. We developed the ability to sweat. Our bodies release heat through our skin. We can keep moving for hours, even days, without overheating. Our ancestors used to hunt animals by following them until they fell down from exhaustion." So-mi's eyes grew wide as she understood. "You are not planning to fight him." "No, I am planning to outlast him. There's a difference." News of the fight spread across the entire galaxy. A human had accepted a Crothian's challenge to single combat. Everyone wanted to watch what they thought would be a very short execution. Do-hyun spent the week before the fight preparing. He ran every morning, building up his ability to keep going. He watched recordings of all of Varex's previous fights, learning his patterns and his weaknesses. He ate healthy food, slept well, and ignored the constant visitors who tried to convince him to back out. The night before the match, So-mi came to his room. She brought a bottle of soju, a traditional Korean drink that she had smuggled from Earth. "For luck," she said, pouring 2 glasses. Do-hyun took his glass and raised it. "To tomorrow." "To tomorrow?" So-mi agreed. "Try not to die. I do not want to be alone at this school." They drank together without talking much, watching the stars move slowly past the window. Tomorrow, everything would be different. Win or lose, live or die, humanity's future would be decided in the arena. Do-hyun looked at the planet below. Somewhere down there, the arena waited. He was as ready as he would ever be. There was only one way to find out if it would be enough. 3 months passed at the academy. Do-hyun went to his classes every day. He finished his homework on time. He learned everything he could about how the galaxy worked. His teacher said he was a good student. Not the best, but far from the worst. He asked many questions and always showed up early, but it was not his grades that made people start talking about him. The academy had a group of volunteers who responded to emergencies. When there was a fire, when someone got hurt, when something went wrong, these volunteers were the first to help. It was dangerous work. Most species wanted nothing to do with it. The Veshans ran the group because nobody else wanted the job. Do-hyun signed up during his second week. Curator Bellix tried to stop him. She called him to her office and spoke very carefully. "This work is not right for humans," she explained. "Your body cannot handle the stress. You heal very slowly. If you get hurt badly, you might never get better." Do-hyun thanked her for worrying about him. Then he signed up anyway. For 3 months, he trained with the emergency team. He learned how to put out fires. He learned how to use medical equipment. He learned how to rescue people from dangerous places. He memorized emergency plans for 40 different species. He practiced until he could do everything without thinking. The other volunteers did not know what to think of him. He was slower than them. He was weaker than them. He was smaller than most of them. But he never complained. He never quit. He came to training every single day and worked harder than anyone else. A few of them started to respect him. Most of them just felt sorry for him. Then the fire happened. It started in the science building, in a room where students studied dangerous chemicals. Something went wrong with a container. 3 different chemicals mixed together. The explosion was small, but the fire it created was terrible. The flames burned blue and green, eating through walls and doors. The heat was so strong that nobody could get close. The emergency alarm screamed through the whole station. Do-hyun was exercising when he heard it. He dropped everything and ran. When he reached the science building, the hallway was full of smoke. The machines that were supposed to put out fires had stopped working. The flames were spreading fast. Even from far away, the heat was painful on his skin. 2 Daeshan volunteers stood at the entrance. They had their equipment ready, but they were not going inside. "It is too hot," one of them said. Her voice was shaking with fear. "Our suits cannot protect us. We have to wait for the special team." "How long until they get here?" Do-hyun asked. 15 minutes. "Maybe 20? Do-hyun looked at the burning hallway. Through the smoke, he could hear screaming. Students were trapped inside. Young Marillion students, based on the sound. They were calling for help. "They will be dead in 15 minutes, Do-hyun said. "We cannot save them," the Daeshan replied. "The fire is too dangerous. We would die too." Do-hyun did not say anything else. He put on his emergency suit, checked that he had air to breathe, and walked toward the fire. "Stop!" The Daeshan shouted. "Your suit is not made for this heat. You will burn." Do-hyun kept walking. The heat hit him like a punch. His suit started to melt almost immediately. The outer layer bubbled and turned black. He could feel the fire through the fabric, burning his skin. The pain was terrible, worse than anything he had ever felt in his life. He kept walking. The smoke was so thick he could not see. He followed the sound of screaming, pushing through burning pieces of wall, climbing over broken equipment. When his hands touched hot metal, the skin burned and blistered. He did not stop. He found the first student in a corner. A small Marillion with soft brown fur, now burned and smoking. She was not moving. Do-hyun picked her up carefully and carried her back toward the entrance. The Daeshan volunteers stared at him when he came out of the fire. His suit was destroyed. His arms were burned, the skin red and black and peeling. Blood ran down his face from where sparks had hit him. But he was still holding the unconscious student gently against his chest. "Take her," he said, giving the Marillion to the nearest volunteer. "There are more inside." Before anyone could stop him, he turned around and went back in. He made 3 trips into the fire. 3 students, carried out one by one. By the 3rd trip, his suit was completely gone. He was walking through flames in nothing but his burned clothes. His hands were so badly damaged that he could barely hold the last student. His whole body was screaming at him to stop. He did not stop. When he finally came out the last time, he fell to the ground. The medical team arrived seconds later. They found Do-hyun lying on the floor, almost unconscious, covered in burns that would take months to heal. But the 3 Marillion students were alive. All 3 of them would survive because of what he had done. Curator Bellix came to the medical room an hour later. She stood next to his bed and watched the machines work to repair his damaged body. Human healing was very slow. The burns would leave scars. Some of the damage to his nerves might never go away. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was not angry, just confused. "You felt every moment of that pain. Why did you go back?" Do-hyun looked at her with tired eyes. They were still inside. you could have died. Yes, you knew you could have died, and you still went? Do-hyun closed his eyes. Someone had to help them. Belix did not understand. She had lived for over 400 years. She had seen countless species, countless people. She had never seen anyone do what this human had done. Walk into certain death, feel unbelievable pain, and then go back for more. Not for money, not for fame. Just because someone needed help done, she left without saying another word. That night, another human came to visit Do-hyun. Her name was Yoon Somi, and she had arrived at the academy 2 weeks after him. She was 23 years old, a former police officer from Bizen. She sat next to his bed for a long time without speaking. Finally, Do-hyun broke the silence. You heard about what happened. Everyone heard, Somi said. The whole station is talking about the crazy human who walked through fire to save 3 students. I just did what needed to be done. Somi laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, you did what a human would do. The Deshans stood outside and waited. The Crothians would have let them die. Most species would have decided the risk was too high. She looked at his bandaged hands, his burned arms, the patches on his face where the skin had melted. They do not understand us, she said quietly. No, Do-hyun agreed. But that is okay. We are not here to be understood. Word spread through the academy over the next few days. The human had run into a fire that should have killed him. He had felt pain that would have stopped any other species. And he had done it 3 times, going back again and again until everyone was safe. Some students thought he was stupid. Some thought he was brave. A few started to wonder if the academy had made a mistake when they said humans were not dangerous. The 3 Marillion students he saved visited him every day. They brought him food from their home planet. They brought flowers that smelled sweet. They brought small gifts that did not cost much but meant everything. They did not have words to thank him properly, so they just sat with him in silence. Do-hyun accepted their thanks with a small smile. He did not think he had done anything special. He had seen people who needed help, and he had helped them. That was all. But somewhere in the academy, in the offices where important decisions were made, someone was looking at what had happened very carefully. Someone was asking questions that had never been asked before. What kind of creature runs toward death instead of away from it? What kind of creature feels pain and keeps going anyway? What exactly had they missed when they studied humanity? The questions did not have answers yet, but they would soon. The arena of Kef Prime was very old. It had been built 6,000 years ago by species that no longer existed. The fighting ground was a huge circle, 500 meters across. Stone pillars rose from the sand. Metal platforms stood at different heights. There were pits filled with water and areas covered in loose rocks. The terrain was different for every fight, designed to test every kind of combat skill. Above the arena, seats rose in endless rows. 17 different species had sent people to watch today's match. The Crothian section was the largest, filled with warriors in black armor. The Deshans sat together, their blue faces worried. The Marillions had brought cameras to show the fight to the whole galaxy. Everyone had come to watch an execution. Park Do-hyun stood in the preparation room under the arena. He wore simple exercise clothes. No armor, no weapons. The rules said that each fighter could only use what their species naturally had. Crothians had bone blades and natural armor. Humans had nothing but their bare bodies. Curator Belix came to see him one last time. Her 4 arms were held tightly together. Her face was full of emotion she could not hide. There is still time to stop this, she said. Nobody would blame you. Do-hyun shook his head. We have talked about this. My answer is the same. Then I wish you luck. Even though I do not think luck will help. We will see, Do-hyun said quietly. A horn sounded. The gates opened. Da-hyun walked out into the arena. The artificial sun burned bright above him. It was hotter than Earth's sun, designed to challenge species who liked cold weather. The sand under his feet was warm. The air was dry and still. The crowd was silent, waiting. Lord Varix entered from the opposite side. He was huge, almost 3 meters of black armor and gleaming bone blades. He walked slowly, enjoying the moment. His forearms spread wide, showing off his natural weapons. The Crothians in the crowd cheered loudly. A voice spoke from machines hidden around the arena. The fight will follow traditional rules. It ends when one fighter surrenders, loses consciousness, or dies. Medical help can be requested at any time. Fighters, do you understand? I understand, Varix said. His voice dripped with disrespect. I understand, Do-hyun said calmly. Begin. Varix attacked immediately. He crossed the distance between them in just a few seconds, his bone blades cutting through the air in deadly patterns. He was fast, much faster than his size suggested. His forearms attacked from different angles at the same time, but Do-hyun was not there. He had started moving the moment the fight began. But he did not move toward Varix. He moved away. He ran, using the stone pillars and metal platforms to put obstacles between himself and the Crothian. The crowd made confused sounds. This was not fighting. This was running away. Varix roared in anger and chased him. His bone blades cut through a stone pillar like it was made of paper. Pieces flew everywhere. He jumped onto a platform and threw himself at Da-hyun, all 4 arms reaching out. Da-hyun ducked under the attack and kept running. For the first 10 minutes, the same thing happened again and again. Varix would get close, attack, and miss. Do-hyun would use the terrain to barely escape and create distance. The human took hits. Shallow cuts appeared on his arms and shoulders. A deep gash opened across his back. Blood stained his clothes and dripped onto the sand. But he did not slow down. The Crothian section booed and shouted insults. The human was a coward, they yelled. He was disgracing the sacred arena. He should stand and fight like a real warrior. Do-hyun ignored all of it. He kept moving, kept running, kept surviving. 20 minutes passed. The artificial sun blazed down without mercy. The sand reflected the heat back up. The temperature in the arena kept climbing. Varix's movements started to slow down. It was small at first. A tiny delay in his reactions. A little heaviness in his steps. His bone blades still cut through the air, but not as fast as before. 30 minutes. The Crothian was breathing hard now. His armored chest moved up and down with effort. His exoskeleton was excellent protection, but it was also a sealed shell. The heat was building inside him, and his body had no way to let it out. Do-hyun was bleeding from 9 different wounds. His left arm was almost useless where a bone blade had cut deep into the muscle. His face was pale from losing so much blood, but he was still moving. His legs still carried him. His breathing was controlled and steady. Humans sweated. It was such a simple thing, something most species found disgusting. But that liquid carried heat away from the body. It was a cooling system more efficient than any armor. 40 minutes passed. Varix stumbled. The crowd went completely silent. The Crothian lord, the killer of 12 warriors, had stumbled. His legs were shaking. His movements were clumsy and slow. The heat inside his sealed armor was cooking him from the inside. Da-hyun stopped running, turned around and walked toward Varix. Slowly, calmly, dripping from his wounds with every step. Varix swung at him with all 4 arms. It was a desperate attack, wild and uncontrolled. Do-hyun stepped inside the reach at the blades, taking a shallow cut across his ribs, and grabbed the Crothian's arm. The bone blade could have cut him in half. But Varix was too weak to pull away. His strength was leaving him. His body was shutting down. Dahyun climbed up onto Varek's back. He wrapped his arms around the Crothian's neck, finding the soft spot between the helmet and chest armor. He squeezed as hard as he could. "Your species," Dahyun said, his voice calm even through the pain, "came from a world without hunters like us." Varek tried to shake him off, but his movements were slow and weak. His bone blades scraped against Dahyun's arms, drawing blood but unable to cut deep enough to make him let go. "We used to hunt by following animals until they collapsed from exhaustion," Dahyun continued. "We would walk for days, never stopping, never resting, until whatever we were chasing could not run anymore." The Crothian's struggles grew weaker. His armored body rattled as it began to fail. "You were right about one thing. We are not strong. We are not fast. We do not have armor or weapons." Dahyun tightened his grip even more. "But we do not stop. We never, ever stop." Varek's legs collapsed. He fell forward onto his chest. Dahyun held on, squeezing and squeezing, until the Crothian's body went completely still. The arena was silent. 17 species stared at what they could not believe. The human, covered in blood, barely able to stand, had defeated the Crothian lord. The arena's voice spoke again. "Lord Varek is unconscious. The fight is over. The winner is Park Do-yoon of Earth." For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, the Marillion section started to clap. The Deshans joined in. Other species followed, one after another, until the entire arena was filled with the sound of applause. The human had won, not through strength, not through speed, not through weapons or armor. He had won through endurance, through pain, through the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. Dahyun stood there, swaying back and forth, bleeding from a dozen wounds. He looked up at the artificial sun and smiled. Then he collapsed onto the sand. Medical teams rushed in from all sides. The last thing Dahyun heard before everything went dark was Sami's voice, screaming his name from somewhere far away. He had done it. Against all odds, against everything that said he should have died. He had won. Now the whole galaxy had to figure out what that meant. Dahyun woke up 3 days after the fight. He was in the Academy's medical room, his body covered in healing patches. The doctors told him he had lost enough blood to kill 3 normal humans. They said it was a miracle he was still alive. Dahyun just asked for some water and went back to sleep. The rest of the galaxy did not sleep. News of what happened in the arena spread to every corner of known space within hours. Billions of beings watched the recording of the fight. Experts studied every moment, every movement, every drop of blood. The human had done something impossible, and everyone wanted to understand how. The Crothian Empire was quiet at first. Lord Varek had survived, but his reputation had not. He had been beaten by a species that was supposed to be harmless in front of the whole galaxy. The shame was too great to measure. Some Crothians called for war against humanity. Others called for Varek to be punished for losing. The Emperor chose a third path, complete silence. The Crothian delegation left the Academy and went home. No official statement was ever made about what happened, but the Crothians would remember. They would always remember. In the Academy's offices, the leaders held an emergency meeting. The Velthari named Orimith had been called to explain himself. He stood before the council, his crystal body flickering with obvious distress. "I must change my original report," he said. "I made mistakes when I studied the human species." "What kind of mistakes?" the council leader asked. Orimith's light flickered faster. "I only measured their physical qualities. How strong they were. How fast they were. What natural weapons they had. By those standards, they are nothing special. But I did not measure their mental qualities. How much pain they could accept. How long they could keep going. How they refused to quit. Explain more. Arimeth showed them images and data. Humans developed as persistence hunters. Their ancestors did not chase prey by being fast or strong. They followed it. For hours. For days. They just kept walking and walking until whatever they were hunting fell down from exhaustion. No other intelligent species we know about developed this way. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I also found other troubling things in human history, Arimeth continued. Their species has survived events that should have killed them all. Ice ages that froze their planet. Volcanoes that blocked out their sun. Diseases that killed more than half their population. Every time, they survived. They changed how they lived. They refused to die. He showed them more images. But the most disturbing thing I found was about their weapons. Humans created devices that could destroy their whole planet. Not just once, but thousands of times over. They called this idea mutual assured destruction. They built weapons they could never use without killing themselves too. And they lived with those weapons pointed at each other for many years. Why would any species do something so insane? Someone asked. Because they would rather destroy everything than lose, Arimeth said. That is what I failed to understand before. Humans do not think about survival the way other species do. They think about winning or destroying everything, but never about giving up. Never about surrender. The council was quiet for a long time. Finally, the leader spoke. What do you suggest we do now? Arimeth's crystal body became solid and clear. We must change how we classify humans immediately. They are not harmless. They are extremely dangerous. Not because of what they can do physically, but because of what they are willing to suffer to achieve their goals. What new classification do you suggest? Arimeth paused before answering. When he spoke, his words were very careful. Do not provoke. The new classification became official 3 hours later. Humanity was no longer considered non-threatening. This new label had never existed before. It was not about how strong a species was or what technology they had. It was a warning about what would happen if you made them angry. Diane learned about all of this when he finally woke up properly, 5 days after the fight. Curator Bellix was sitting next to his bed, holding a small computer screen. You have caused a lot of problems, she said. But her voice was not angry. It almost sounded impressed. I just survived, Diane said. That is all I did. You did much more than survive. You changed how the whole galaxy sees your species. She handed him the screen. The Crothians have stopped demanding your death. Actually, they have stopped all communication with humanity completely. They are calling it a strategic decision. Dahin read the report slowly. They are afraid of us now. Yes, for the first time ever, the Crothians have met something they do not know how to fight. Something that does not stop. Something that does not surrender. Something that does not die when it is supposed to. We are just humans. Bellix made a sound that might have been a laugh. That is exactly what makes them afraid. Over the next several weeks, Dohyun slowly got better. His wounds healed, leaving new scars to go with the old ones from the fire. More human students started arriving at the academy. They were no longer limited to just 1 or 2. The new classification had opened doors that used to be locked. Yunsomi visited him every day during his recovery. She brought news from Earth and messages from his mother. She brought small gifts from the Marillion students who still thought of him as a hero. You know, she said one afternoon, they are already making songs about you. On 17 different worlds. In hundreds of different languages. They call you the human who would not fall. Don shook his head. I fell down many times. I just kept getting back up. That is what makes it a good song. He laughed, then made a face as his healing ribs hurt. I did not do it for songs. I did not do it for fame. I just refused to let them win. Somi smiled at him. I know. That is what makes you human. Dohun finished his studies at the academy 2 years later. He graduated at the top of his class in emergency response work. Species that had once ignored humans now offered him important jobs on their worlds. He chose to become the first human peacekeeper for the Galactic Accords, working to solve conflicts between different species. When people asked him about the arena fight, he always said the same thing. I did not do anything special. Any human would have done the same. We are very patient. We are very stubborn. We do not give up easily. The people who interviewed him would nod and ask other questions. They never really understood what he meant, but the galaxy was learning. Slowly, one experience at a time, other species were starting to understand what humans had always known about themselves. Strength gets tired. Speed slows down. Armor breaks. Technology becomes old. But stubbornness? Endurance? The simple, beautiful, crazy refusal to stop fighting? Those things last forever. The Academy changed their rules for studying new species after what happened. The first question they now asked was simple but important. What is the worst thing your species has ever survived? When they asked humans this question, the answers went on for hours. Ice ages and plagues. Wars and famines. Natural disasters and ones they caused themselves. Catastrophes that should have ended them hundreds of times. And every answer ended the same way. We survived. We adapted. We kept going. The people studying them learned to take very detailed notes. Somewhere far across the galaxy, in a quiet room in the Crothian Empire, Lord Varek sat alone. He had watched the recording of his defeat more than 1,000 times. He still did not understand how he had lost, but he had learned one important lesson. The next time he saw a human, he would bow first. Some lessons can only be learned through pain, and humans, it turned out, were very good at teaching that kind of lesson.